When we talk about a language, it's usually about grammar, vocabulary, that kind of thing. But today, we're diving into a story that's so much more. It's a story of how a wall of mountains can shape a people's voice, how technology can literally forge an alphabet, and how a culture's entire identity gets written into existence. We are exploring the absolutely fascinating evolution of Malayalam. And right at the heart of this story is this huge central question, a debate that has fascinated linguists for more than 100 years. What is Malayalam's real relationship with its powerful neighbor Tamil? Is it a kind of rebellious daughter who broke away to find her own identity, or is it an equal sister, born from the very same ancient parent? Honestly, this one question is the key to understanding its entire journey. So to get to the bottom of it, we're going to go on a quest for that identity. First, we'll get into that big family feud over its origins. Then we'll hunt for the first clues, which were actually carved in ancient copper. We'll see how a brand new alphabet was shaped, explore a kind of literary tug-of-war, and finally, we'll meet the great unifier who put the language on the path it's on today. All right, so let's jump right into our first stop, that central mystery. Where does Malayalam really come from?
Okay, so you've got two main camps here, two competing stories. The daughter theory, well, that one suggests that Malayalam was basically just a Western dialect of Tamil that kind of drifted away, starting around the 9th century. But then you have the sister theory, which argues for a much older, much deeper split. It says that both languages grew up side by side, evolving in parallel from a common ancestor way back in prehistory. And this isn't just some academic squabble, right? It's about whether Malayalam is an offshoot or an original in its own right. So you might be asking, what could cause a split like that? Well, the answer is pretty incredible. It's geography. You see that massive wall of mountains, the Western Ghats? It physically cut off the Malabar coast from the rest of southern India. And this isolation, it acted like a linguistic cradle, protecting the local dialect, letting it develop its own unique features, and even hang on to some ancient sounds that were changing everywhere else.
Okay, so geography sets the stage, but where's the actual proof? Where are the receipts, right? Well, for our second section, we're moving from theory to something you can actually touch, the very first time this unique voice was ever recorded.
These copper plates, they are basically our time machines. The Vajrapali plate from 832 is the oldest solid evidence we have. It's a royal decree about a temple. Then, just a few years later in 849, the Quillen plates show the language being used for really complex things, like land grants in a busy global trading hub. And here's where you see its independence really taking off. By 974, the Mambali plates mention a uniquely Caroline calendar, the Kolavarsham. So the language wasn't just spoken anymore. It was now the language of power, of religion, and of a distinct identity.
But being a language of power isn't just about speaking it. You need a script that can do everything you need it to do. And this brings us to this incredible story of pure innovation, where the physical material they were writing on actually forced them to invent a whole new alphabet.
Just imagine this for a second. You're a writer, but your paper is a dried palm leaf. It's got these long, parallel fibers running through it. If you take a sharp stylus and try to etch a straight line, guess what happens? The leaf splits right open. So, how on earth do you create a writing system?
Well, you innovate. The first solution was something called vatalutu, which means rounded letters, a beautiful, curvy script that just flowed with the grain of the leaf. Perfect. But it had a big problem. It could only represent native Dravidian sounds, and as Sanskrit became the language of philosophy and religion, writers needed more. So, for a while, they just imported another script, Grantha, for all their Sanskrit texts. For a time, they were using two different alphabets. The final, absolutely brilliant solution was to merge them, creating Arya Ijutu, a powerful hybrid script that could finally, precisely capture every single sound in both languages.
So, with this powerful new script in hand, the language enters this golden age of literature. But it wasn't a straight path. It was actually pulled in two very different directions. This was a literary tug-of-war for the very soul of Malayalam. On one side, you had the patu, or song tradition. Think of this as the grassroots style. It stayed really close to its Dravidian and Tamil roots, and it only used the old Vatalutu script. But on the other side was Mani Pravalam, which literally means ruby coral. This was a sophisticated, highbrow, elite style that masterfully blended Malayamala rubies with Sanskrit corals. One was the voice of the land, the other was the voice of the learned. And you can really get a sense of the philosophy behind Manipravalam from this incredible 14th century text. The goal was, quote, a harmonious blend where the two languages should mix without the least trace of any discord. See? It wasn't just about mashing words together. It was about creating something seamless, something beautiful and new. It really shows the incredible artistry they were aiming for.
So you've got these two powerful, competing traditions pulling the language in opposite directions. Who could possibly bring them together? Well, this is where the hero of our story steps in, the man who is widely considered the father of the modern Malayalam language.
His name was Thanchottu Ejutachan, and in the 16th century, this visionary poet looked at the two streams, Patu and Manipravalam, and he did something truly revolutionary. He didn't pick one over the other. No, instead, he created a middle path. He synthesized them into a brand new, standardized literary language that had all the elegance of Sanskrit, but also the beautiful rhythm of native Dravidian meters.
And his master tool, the key to his whole project, was this number, 51. Ejutachan championed the modern 51-character Arya Ejutu alphabet. With these 51 characters, he could finally capture every single sound from both the Sanskrit and the Dravidian traditions, all in one unified script. It was the key that unlocked the modern language.
And his legacy, it is just monumental. He didn't just standardize a language. By translating the great Hindu epics into a simple, beautiful, melodic style, he made sacred knowledge accessible to everyone, no matter their caste. He used language as a tool for a social revolution, effectively democratizing literacy and religion for an entire people. It's incredible.
And that spirit of adapting never ever stopped. Let's fast forward a few centuries to 1971. With the rise of the typewriter, the complex flowing script was once again a technological hurdle. So a major reform was introduced. It simplified the script, making it easier to type and, eventually, to bring into the digital world. The language just kept evolving with the times.
So think about that journey for a second. From a dialect that was sheltered by mountains, to a voice carved in copper, to a script that was literally shaped by fragile palm leaves, and finally to a unified language that could be printed and pixelated. The story of Malayalam is one of constant, brilliant adaptation. And it really makes you wonder, in our age of AI and global communication, what will its next evolution look like?